So you know that feeling you get when you're thinking about someone, then all of a sudden they text or your phone rings and you know exactly who it is. Or you have a song playing in the back of your mind over and over and over. Then all of a sudden you hear it playing on a radio station, or it's in your playlist, or you're watching a certain TV show and all of a sudden that song is like one of the songs in the show. Or you get that feeling like you don't know what it is, but something's about to happen. That's a little unexpected. You just get that feeling, and then something actually does happen. Have you ever dreamt about someone, and then that thing you dreamt about, or that person pops up? That thing you dreamt about happened. We're talking about our third eye chakra in action, right? So the third eye, which is our sixth chakra, it's a two-petal flower, and it's a purplish color, kind of like the color of my nails, I guess. And it actually has the mantra Om, and it's actually considered to be the very center, right? Not just a sense of what is approaching, but it's our intuition itself. Like it's what we know without having evidence of that in the physical realm. And just like as if we're talking about the fifth chakra, which was our throat chakra, how it was directing us towards the higher faculties of our being once we passed the heart chakra, which was the medium of the chakras. Now we're in that realm, right? We're in the realm of the mind rather than the body, which is the lower chakras. Now that we've passed through our heart space, our heart center. And the third eye chakra is the chakra of imagination. It's the chakra of visualization and perception. This is where our dreams are formed in visions, and even our inspiration is formed here. It's our inner voice, our conscience even. You know, it's our sense of right and wrong. And I'm imagining like an angel and a devil on my shoulders. But, you know, in other cultures, specifically Indian cultures, they would usually mark that spot on our forehead, like with a jewel or something, or they would mark that place in between our brows to give reverence to the third eye chakra. Sometimes they use something bright like yellow to mark that. Some type of powder, or I've also seen people wear jewels right there, but it's giving reverence to the third eye chakra. Some says that when they mark it, it actually serves to awaken. But many would say that we can awaken this part of our chakra system simply by knowing. Okay. The sixth chakra, which is the third eye chakra, is also sometimes called the psychic chakra or our intuition chakra. It's considered in traditional Sanskrit to be called the anja. The anja. And that word anja can be translated as command, or some may translate it to mean perceive. And the idea around commanding relates to this understanding that the third eye contains our intuitive perception and our conscience, which links our ability to know, right? Right from wrong, as a matter of fact. It's like our moral compass, and it guides us in how we govern ourselves. The traditional element of Sanskrit also has a word called Mahat, which means supreme or great element. Thinking about where all of the elements would combine together. It's like the idea of that. There's also some experts who have thought of the third eye chakra to be associated with light. And when we think of our physical eyes and understanding how they operate, and understanding how light is in fact the thing that gives us sight, right, with our natural eyes, and then bringing that to the spiritual aspect. If this is our spiritual eye, it's related to the idea of light in an intuitive sense, thinking of the third eye as the light, meaning that it sheds light on the part of our intuition and imagination that would normally not have, that we would normally not have access to without an inner light or without the illumination to those perceptions, right? And so that's why the third eye chakra is related to or considered to be that light, our life force energy that allows us to be able to perceive through the unseen so that we don't lack the inner light, so that we're not in spiritual darkness. Makes sense to me. And we know that this is the chakra that is one of the most important ones, right? Because it actually has a lot to do with our very internal being, whereas the lower ones were dealing with the physical aspects of our being. The upper chakras are dealing with our mental faculties, our higher faculties. And so I definitely tend to think that these are just on a higher level, more worthy of giving attention to. And of course, that mantra is Om. Again, it's considered to be the primordial sound of the universal vibration. And of course, we understand that chanting that Om sound helps to activate or awaken the chakra. And if it's already awakened, it helps to just re-energize that chakra center and bring all things together. Again, it brings everything together, all the chakras together. And so we know that it's located right here between our eyebrows, behind our forehead. And this encompasses actually our whole face. It's dealing with the chakras, our whole face, the whole head, as a matter of fact. It's also connected to other parts of our body, like our pituitary gland. And of course, our pineal gland, that little small little pine cone shaped thing. The carotid nerve plexus, I believe is what it's called. The brain, the eyes, the nose, the sinuses, like everything dealing with the head. And so, of course, we can see everything that we can see in the 3D with our physical eyes, but there are things in the spiritual that the third eye chakra allows us to see, right? We can make a clear list of things we see in the physical. That list could be a little bit challenging when we go to describe things in the spiritual. In the 3D, we can see how the sun rises and how the moon comes out. But we can also see how when we look at someone, sometimes we can see that they're worried. We can see that there's something that they're trying to work out on the inside. They're trying to find a solution to something. We can see that, right? There's something that could be bothering them. We can see that. Or we can see in the 3D, like we can look at a math problem and clearly see it with our physical eyes. But when we talk about solving that math problem, we're talking about seeing that solution with our spiritual eye. In our mind, we're seeing how that can be worked out and resolved. And we can also look physically at somebody that we love, that could be standing right in front of us, and we can be expressing to them how much we love them or the ways that we love them. But when it comes to them being able to translate that love, that translation, them understanding that takes a spiritual eye to see that, to understand that, to be able to understand what is meant when what is being said or what is being shown, or the feelings that are being perceived for someone else, right? And so the third eye checklist could be seen in a very different aspect of that word, not just in the physical, but in the spiritual, in the emotional. Every aspect of that word is talking about seeing in every aspect. Our third eye chakra actually has great influence over our physical eyes, as well as our spiritual eyes, over our imagination, over our visions, over our dreams, our ability to actually perceive information, both literally and metaphorically as well. And our inner wisdom that we hold, that's able to actually see what needs to be done right, like what needs to be done in any moment in time. We're talking about the moral compass is what we're talking about as well. And it's all going on right here in this third eye space, right here behind our forehead. And when it comes to psychic moments and our intuition, let's look at what it means to be psychic, actually, right? A lot of people who are psychic are seen as having a more finely honed intuition. But in reality, intuition is really a part of all of these abilities that we have. It's an overall part of what everybody possesses. We all have it. And it's an ability to pick up on subtle clues in our surroundings, things that people would normally bypass or not pay attention to. Our conscious mind, it doesn't notice these things, but there are times where we get a feeling, right? Like that brings these things to our attention. We get a feeling that we should do something or that we shouldn't do something. It's a subtle feeling that arises, sometimes in the gut, that gives us the information concerning our surroundings. It arises, that's just one example, but it can arise in many ways. Like maybe telling you, for instance, something's happening with a friend or a relative, or maybe you need to call them, or maybe there's somewhere where you're en route to. Maybe you don't need to go there, or maybe you're on your way to work. Maybe you need to take a different route on your way to work for some reason, or maybe you get like goosebumps, that tells you that you need to call one of your children, like something could be wrong, and these nudges show up in many different ways. It just depends on the person, and so some of what we could be picking up on are even mental pictures and visions that come across this chakra as well. And when this chakra, our third eye chakra, is healthy, and when this chakra is open, our intuition actually speaks. It can speak out, and it can encourage us to be more attentive. And it's actually something that we shouldn't ignore. We shouldn't brush it off. you know. And they've done studies that actually show how people who hone in and follow these intuitive nudges are actually more likely to avoid situations where danger is present. They've done studies about it. And in that same way, those who ignore those intuitive nudges, because they think that it's just their, imagination, or that they're overthinking, or they're being like too paranoid or overly sensitive, sometimes they find out too late that they should have actually listened and followed those intuitive nudges, that they were actually spot on, right? And so this intuition actually comes about in childhood, where we learn, or this lack of following our intuition, comes about in childhood, where we learn to ignore or put off our intuition. Because children actually have amazing imaginations, and they also have amazing perceptions as well. And they see things that we don't. As adults, we usually are busy, too busy to notice, or we're too focused on something else. We're trying to work something out, trying to stick to the schedule. We're just someplace else. We're stressed out, about life. Our brains are crowded with all of the many things that we have on our schedule from day to day, right? It's nonstop. And sometimes the children might, because they're not trained and it's new, they may misunderstand or misperceive what it is that they're seeing. But even in those situations, as they're getting familiar, if they're constantly being told that what they're seeing and what they're perceiving isn't real, or that it doesn't exist, they quickly learn how to stuff it down and stifle their perceptions and ignore their intuitions, And when a child sees that, we'll use the imaginary friend as an example, or we can even just call it a ghost. We'll call it what it is. Or they believe that their dream really did happen. Or they believe that they have a friend that moved away to another state who actually really did visit them, Or they could have been convinced that their pet has actually been trying to tell them something, been trying to communicate with them. Just imagine what happens, in that child's heart space, in this space where this imagination is flourishing, when the parent or someone who is, say, their guardian or over them, says that they're wrong, or that it's not true, or they need to stop playing and get serious, If you were told as a child that your intuition or your visions weren't real, you could have learned not to trust it. You could have learned not to trust your inner voice, or even listen. You've learned not to listen to your inner voice that you were experiencing as a child. And on the other hand, those children whose inner voice and visions were acknowledged and considered and discussed, and picked apart and dissected and honored, even if the adult breaks down what's really going on, it may be different than what the child perceives, but it's just the acknowledging of it. Those children learn that their own third eye could really be telling them something. There's a connection that happens, and a relationship and a cultivating that happens. And even though they don't see it as their third eye, is what I'm trying to say. They see it as this happening or this knowing or this perception that they're able to tap into, even though they wouldn't call it that. All of that is an empowering gift, you know, within that child, that could later on be cultivated to be useful in life. It starts from childhood. But even as adults, do you remember all the things that you used to imagine as a child? Do you remember? It wasn't that long ago, was it? No. You imagined fun and having fun as children. And because life sometimes gets in the way, what we do as adults is, we don't allow ourselves to venture in that direction as much as we should. And sometimes it gets, in the way of our everyday experiences. But we should allow ourselves to do that because it's useful in many ways than we realize. Our imagination, even if it's unused and untapped, just kind of lying inside of us, is still there, waiting to be used. It doesn't just go away. And it's there forever. As long as we are here in the flesh, it's there, and there's this all access pass that we have to it. If you know, and it's not something that we just can use as children, but it's something that we actually can use and do use as adults. Well, some of us. Our imagination is useful in many different ways, wonderful ways, from daydreaming about that vacation that you see yourself on, a much needed vacation at that, or a pastime fantasy, just to help you kind of chart your way, towards the future. Our imaginations can also be used for things like developing our careers, taking us in a direction that we wish to go, developing our relationships, or improvements around them as well. Our imaginations can be useful also around things like planning, even retirement, or learning how we can live out our life's dream, whatever that might be, whatever that looks like. Those in creative professions actually use their imaginations regularly. Musicians, painters, writers, dancers, actors, any form of art or any form of creation, there's a wide use of imagination that's being used, that's necessary. And this place in the mind where we can go and be anything that we can imagine. And I always say that if you can imagine it, then hey, that means it's possible of bringing that thing into reality for yourself, if you can imagine it. But it all begins in the imagination, in the dreams, in the ability to visualize it. And so if you've ever taken a class that required visualization, and that could be like meditation, or it could be like yoga, or just anything, that requires you to go into your mind and meditate and visualize. You've already experienced it if you have taken one of those classes, what it means to visualize. And visualization is the act of forming mental images of something for a specific purpose. Some people will use it to actually center themselves. Some people will use it to relax. Some people will use it to focus during meditation, which we've been doing a lot of that, right? That's what this whole series is about. It's about utilizing all of these faculties of our being, and we've been learning about the chakras. And so for those of you that's been following along on this series, you already know about the visualizations that we've been doing through the meditations, and how we visualize around environments, such as picturing yourself, in a space that's very relaxing and safe for you, something ideal for you, like a garden. It could be like a forest, scenery. It could be a grassy area next to a brook of flowing water with a big tree next to it. Someplace on a mountaintop where there's a beautiful view that you can look out to. And it could literally be anything, and some people would visualize things like receiving, help with something that's happening in their lives. It could be visualizing money coming to you. It could be being able to visualize your ideal weight in your body, and even when we think of the elite athletes, that's been known around the world, and these are people that visualize consistency. Like for the basketball players, this could be visualizing making free throws consistently, or three-pointers consistently. Tennis players are visualizing making that hit, that would win the game, and so win the set, and so visualization is something that is widely used, and it's not just for children. It's not just for children. It's to enhance our level of creativity. That's what visualization is for. And some people could just simply do it because it's fun. They may not even do it to get anything out of it. There doesn't always have to be a reason for it, or there doesn't always have to be an expected outcome for, visualizing. It could just be to have fun with it. Our mind's ability to see what's not there is reflected in the state of this chakra, the sixth chakra. And it's here where we form the mental pictures of anything that we can actually conceive or imagine. And in a way that we have to actually be careful too, right? I'm making it sound like all fun, but there's a level of responsibility with that too. From relationships that you want to be healed, you can visualize that, to having a greater understanding and dealings with people, or things that could incite some type of intimidation or fear that you need to get over. Anything and everything is fair game when it comes to using this energy center, the third eye chakra, right? For some people, it's very easy, particularly those who would be having that healthy third eye chakra, that open third eye chakra. They could be those who've practiced and who's kind of gotten used to it and mastered the art and the skill of it. And then for others who may be just now allowing themselves to go there, picturing something isn't always that easy. It could be challenging, but overall, energizing this part of our chakra system and tapping in and awakening and focusing in, setting our intention on this chakra can definitely help. It can help. There's definitely a few different meditation videos that you can tap into. right here on my page. If you go into the 7 series chakra meditation mantra, you'll see a few to choose from. And during the meditations that I've created, there are visualizations that are very much a part of that meditation that we are pulled into. And so it doesn't have to be stressful. It's not supposed to be. This is really, I feel like this is really designed to be fun and allow us to tap into that part of ourselves, that creative part, the imagination, which is supposed to be really a place of safety for you, for me. It's supposed to be a place of enjoyment where we can kind of, structure things the way that we feel, and the way that we see it, And so if you haven't had a chance to tap in to some of the visualization exercises through the meditation mantras, go ahead and go over and check them out. I just released one, the last one, which was the 6th chakra, the 3rd eye chakra. But there's about 5 others besides that one that you can tap into. I always say you want to start from the root and work your way up, right? It's definitely on my page here. And so you'll have all of the opportunities to practice some of these visualizations, not just with the 3rd eye, but even with the other chakras. There's visualizations attached with those meditations as well. And it's quite amazing, if you ask me, how we can kind of step out of reality for a minute as you allow your 3rd eye chakra to kind of take over and take you wherever it is that you want to go mentally. It's a matter of just simply closing your eyes, focusing in, and allowing this powerful tool that we have right here in our body. It doesn't cost anything, right between our eyebrows, to take us wherever it is that we desire to go. Now that is the 3rd eye chakra, right? Now it also serves as a tool to bring a level of wisdom in as well for us. And as much as the 3rd eye is about seeing and all the different manifestations that are available, it's also about knowing as well. And this is actually where wisdom resides, as well as our conscience. And as we talked about earlier, our conscience is about our moral compass. It's about knowing. It's about right and wrong. And it's through this chakra we not only see what's going on, but we're also able to decipher what it means and also understand if it's right or wrong. And simply just understand as well. And so there's a level of wisdom that comes in through this chakra, through our 3rd eye chakra. And when we close ourselves off here, when we close this off, then there's a part of our moral compass that's actually lost in our ability to make decisions based on more than just what we see, right? That surface level of knowledge. But with an open and healthy 3rd eye chakra, we're allowed to actually tune into those discovery moments, those aha moments that pop up unexpectedly and we just get it all of a sudden. The light bulb comes on. Not only aha moments, but recognition and understanding as well. We can also tap into our deep inner and eternal knowing. And that's amazing to me. But when it's closed off, when we close ourselves off from this part of our energy system, we're kept from this level of wisdom. And we're closed off from our center of being, our center of knowledge, our center of wisdom. And then lastly, when it comes to dreams, sometimes what we see in our dreams can seem very vivid and real. It almost seems like we're awake because a lot of the emotions and the experiences, sometimes we're actually having them in our body even as we're dreaming at the same time. Even though we're in the dream state, that dream energy actually resides here in this sixth chakra as well. And tuning into this part of our existence, our dream state, is actually a very good way to energize the third eye chakra. It actually helps to develop that part of our energy system. And so when we get up every morning, if you're looking to stimulate the third eye chakra and be more active with your dreams, it might be beneficial to try to consciously remember what it was that you've dreamt. And also think about what the dreams might be telling us, or what new perspective might be ushering in that we can gain from what's going on in life by what we've dreamt. And so when it comes to dreams, they actually speak in symbols and pictures, right? It's not going to be like a very straightforward conversation. It's going to be very encoded. And so what they're telling us, though, is actually giving us a level of wisdom, I believe, our dreams. And there's many ways where we can interpret those dreams as well, which is a whole different subject and a whole different lesson. But it's definitely something that you can learn if you're interested and get more information about. But you would have to search it, probably find books, and like anybody, it's something that you can definitely develop better when it comes to tapping into recalling your dreams. And some simple things that you can do is you can keep a journal and a pen and a piece of paper next to your bed so that when you wake up in the spur of the moment, in the middle of the night, you can jot it down. Or first thing in the morning when you get up, before you go off about your day, have that pen and paper ready to write down and jot what you just dreamt about. Because those visual impressions from your dream, the moment that you wake up in the morning, if you don't write them down, many times what will happen is it'll dissipate. They'll slip right out of your memory and you'll forget that you even had a dream, right? So whether you're turning over, going back to sleep, or whether you're getting up, going about your day, it's crucial to write it down as it's freshly on your mind when you get up in the morning. Okay? And so, because if you don't do it, again, I'm going to say it again, it's going to slip out of your memory and you won't even remember. So it's a matter of just basically telling yourself that you want to remember your dreams. Telling yourself that, okay? All right. In addition to this, I want to read a couple of things that are associated with the third eye chakra. So let's jump in. All right. And so the sixth chakra, also called the third eye chakra, or the Anja. The animals that are associated with this chakra is the owls. And they've chosen the owl as the archetypes because of their inner patterns of behavior, or their universal roles. The archangel would be Raphael. The body would be celestial. And the color is indigo or purple. The element is the supreme element, a combination of all of the elements. The food would be blackberries, blueberries, purple grapes, poppy seeds, any food or substance that affects perception and intuition, including red wine. That's a plus. I always feel like these foods are sometimes associated like around the color that are associated with that chakra. I found that to be true. The gemstone or crystal is amethyst, alexandrite, azurite, fluorite, the star sapphire, or other deep blue or purple stones. For the goddesses and gods, we have Apollo, Hecate, Isis, Krishna, Paramasiva, which is a form of Shiva, or the Shakti Hakini. For the herbs and spices, we have sandalwood. The incense is star anise or acacia. The key word is insight. The kinds of people are spiritual friends. And the people that it seems like you've always known. AKA, that could mean like soul family. Not blood relatives, but soul family. The metal is silver. The musical note is the key of A. The number of lotus petals are actually the 2 petals, and they're considered the 2 eyes on either side of the third eye chakra. The plane of existence is austerity. The ruling planet is the sun and the moon. The sound, the seed sound or the mantra is Om. The sense is, of course, intuition. And the sense organ is, of course, the third eye. It might also be the pituitary gland. The shape is a circle with 2 petals. The tarot suit is swords, right? Because swords is thought. It's mental activity. The verb is to see. The vowel or a vibration is E, as in me, or The yoga path is Yantra Yoga. It's a Tibetan form of yoga similar to the Hatha Yoga that combines posing with breathing exercises and meditation to increase the life force energy, or the prana. And lastly, the zodiac sign for the third eye chakra is Leo and Cancer. All right. Well, that wraps up our third eye chakra one-on-one. I hope this has been helpful in helping you understand a little bit more about this beautiful energy center that we all have. That's just absolutely out of this world amazing. And so if you haven't had a chance to go over and check out the 6th chakra, the third eye chakra meditation series, go ahead and go over and check it out. Find maybe 35 minutes, a quiet spot where you can just be unbothered and you can tune into your imagination and focus on yourself and go wherever it is that you need to go in this moment. Feel free to go over and explore that meditation video. Let me know what you think. Of course, like, share, and if you're new here, first time watcher, make sure you subscribe and hit the bell so that you'll be notified whenever a new video comes out. All right. Thank you so much for stopping by. It has been a pleasure bringing you the third eye chakra one-on-one. And so until next time, make sure you make time for yourself to go where no man has gone before. It's all up to you. All right, bye. It's been Letty Speaks.